Order, order. Hello and welcome to Reporters Without Orders, a podcast where we talk about what made news, what didn't, and some things that absolutely shouldn't have. I'm your host, Akansha Kumar. In a span of less than 6 months, Muslim women in India have been targeted twice. Their photos have been put out on an app earlier in July last year under the name Sulli Deals on a software development platform known as GitHub. And in January this year, their photos have made it to the online platform yet again under the name Bully Bai. For those who don't know, Sulli and Bully are vulgar slangs which have been used with a purpose, in this case, to humiliate women, especially from the minority community. Why are Muslim women the target of such an organized online attack? We will try and find an answer to this question during the course of this discussion. Let me first introduce you our panel for today. Joining me today is friend and former colleague, a freelance journalist based in Delhi, Arshi Qureshi. Hi, Arshi.
Hi, hi.
Also joining us is Pooja Chaudhary, senior editor at Alt News, that has done a very detailed investigation last year as to who all is behind the Sulli deals. Hi, Pooja.
Hi, Akansha.
Also with us is Nidhi Suresh, my colleague from News Laundry, who's interested in gender related stories. Hi, Nidhi.
Hi, Akansha.
So, Nidhi has also done an investigative piece earlier looking at some of people who were behind YouTube channels and Facebook pages when the controversy around the suicide of Sushant Singh Rajput had erupted. And she would also help us understand the mindset that is behind such a targeted attack. Um, I'll first begin with Arshi.
Yeah.
Uh, I read your piece, and you came to know when people started tagging you on Twitter, and this happened on 1st of January, when you in fact wanted to announce to the world that you're beginning your stint as a freelance journalist. You're looking out for work, and this
Mm.
is what comes your way. And what I wanted to understand is there a pattern behind all of this, Arshi? Were there earlier attempts at intimidation through online trolling? And what do you think is the intention behind this?
So yeah, as you rightly said, on first Jan, I had to write my first report, and I saw that my name is being tagged somewhere and getting retweeted. So that's when I got to know, and it was really numbing for me to process everything. And yes, it is a targeted attempt to harass basically Muslim women. So this hasn't happened the first time. If not on this auctioning app, earlier, like on Instagram or on Twitter. So such trolls basically are the blue trolls. They would abuse me over something, would abuse my family, and that's in a very derogatory terms. So it is intimidating to some extent, but then it does not really stop. Like, if they do it, but I do not stop myself from saying. So for some time I will back off, but then again I don't think I can I will stop speaking for whatever they do. And there is a pattern. Like last time also, when it's like, actually it happened for the third or fourth time, this auctioning. So they're like continuously targeting those women, Muslim women. And when I say women, it like specifically Muslim women, because these women are more vocal and are and speak against the government, not just. So it's a way to harass them, to stop them. And also, like, people, such RW people, right-wing Hindu people, I would say, uh, their motive is to silence, because they can't see a Muslim, because we there's an imagery created for Muslim women, and they can't see that a Muslim woman can be more vocal. So to silence them, this is the only way, because okay, honor and integrity for a woman should be the most the topmost priority. So to silence them, this is the best way for them to harass.
And in fact, in your recent piece for Maktoob Media, I would like to just quote a line from your piece. You have written, the repeated attempts to sexualize Muslim women reveal the inferiority complex that right-wing Hindu men suffer. And Muslim women, of course, have been at the forefront of, some of the anti-government protests, particularly the anti-CA protests. Uh, do you think that this is another attempt at further polarizing the society, given the political climate that we've been seeing since 2014?
Yes, it is. And yes, like as my article, like I'll quote, it is a repeated attempt because it comes from the inferiority complex within the men and Hindu wing men. If you've seen, like there are many meme pages on Twitter or on Instagram where they would put out women in burqa or in veiled something with Hindu men. So, the idea of Muslim women being covered and veiled, being submissive, is it's their idea that this is how a Muslim woman should be. Because like when I was reading trolls and everything, so they said uh, that even your Muslim men, they keep you like this. Like, why don't you question the Muslim men who keep you like this, who want you to stay silent? They question us, they target us, and in fact then sexualizing us, that this is like this is how you're supposed to be. They sexualize us in such a way. But since 2014 and like right after anti-CA protest, the the surge with which Muslim women, those who are at home, the like homemakers, they came and sat for days and days, for so many days they just sat to protest against this. That's why this law did not come in action, because this created a fear among majority that if Muslim women keep speaking, the minority of the minority keeps speaking, they will become insecure. It's a threat to their quote unquote Hindu Rashtra, which they do not want. I mean, which they want, but if we keep speaking, they won't be able to progress with it. They won't be able to go forward with it.
Right. So I would like to bring Pooja into the discussion. And Pooja, my first question to you is that in November, Alt News did a fairly detailed investigative piece when there was a concerted effort to pin the blame for creating Sulli Deals app on to a Muslim youth, Zaved Alam. And what I wanted to understand is, while you were interacting with this one person who would go under the name of Dank Chikitsak on Twitter
Yes.
and other social media platforms, and his real name was Krunal, who was trying
Krunal
to
Patel.
Krunal Patel, who was trying to suggest that he has evidence that proves that it was in fact Javed Alam who has created this app, and there were discrepancies in his version. Uh, did it at any point appear to you guys while you were, chasing the story and interacting with Krunal, that it is not just a handiwork of few individuals, that there is perhaps a larger network at play here?
Yes, definitely. It was clearly an organized attempt. If you go back to our story as well, there were lots of Twitter handles that had taken responsibility for the app. And there were others who were celebrating them and congratulating them. But then after it started gaining a lot of, it started gathering criticism, that is when they tried to shift the narrative and blame a Muslim youth for the creation of the app. Now, this blaming also happened in a very, very organized effort. They, from what we found is that the chats that they put out, which showed that this person named Javed Alam is taking credit for creating the app. It seemed manufactured to us because if you see, there's a discrepancy. This Dan Chikitsak or Krunal Patel, he had on July 22nd last year, he had tweeted that he has proof of this person admitting that he's created the app. And in his July 22nd tweet, he has written that I will be soon posting a video with the proof. And the video he posted was of a Telegram chat, and that Telegram chat is dated July 24th. So clearly, it was organized, but maybe not well thought out, because he seemed to have knowledge of something that happened on July 24th already. He seemed to have knowledge of it on July 22nd, 2 days earlier. So it was a organized attempt, and I spoke to Krunal on the phone because his number was publicly available. Someone had posted his number, and that's how we found his number, and we spoke to him. And obviously he denied that he's not behind silly deals, and he's just trying to help out and trying to help the cops also find this Zavid guy. He was actually also questioned by the police. He was called by the Delhi police, Zavid Alam, and he had been in Delhi for a week or so when the questioning was going on. Krunal was also called to the police station for the questioning, but nothing of any consequence happened in that investigation. I don't know why, because there was clear evidence that the Telegram chat, has discrepancy, and Javed was not behind the app. And Krunal also seemed to have a lot of knowledge, because the Telegram chat happened between this Javed Alam guy and a woman named Sameen, and her Twitter account was @notsameen. And Krunal himself said that this was an imposter account. And in fact, the number that was used to talk to Javed Alam while pretending to be not Sameen was also Krunal Patel's number. So there was a clear indication that he has some inside knowledge. So I'm not sure what happened in the police investigation that it did not lead to any arrests or detentions or anything of consequence. And the same people, this is how the bully by thing also functioned, because how Vishal Jha, the person who has been arrested, he also had, if you go to his Twitter, his archived chats on Twitter, he has interacted with these bunch of people, Krunal Patel, and there's another guy called Ritesh Jha, who used to run this account called Liberal Dog. News Laundry has also done a story on Ritesh Jha. And so that's how they found, because he was pretending to be a sick person, and he was interacting with these people. And in one of the tweets, he had put out his phone number. That's how the police traced him. And he doesn't seem to be the big fish here, because there are clearly bigger players involved. But he has been, of course, called for questioning, and hopefully something will come out from the investigation that is going on.
In the case of Sulli deals, no arrests have been made yet. Given the fact that in this particular case, even though GitHub decided to withdraw that particular app, which was created on their platform, but there were domain pages which were also bought on GoDaddy. How easy or difficult it is for the police to nab the culprits in such cases?
Pretty easy, I would think. If we sitting in our homes with our laptops doing this kind of research with we don't have sophisticated tech or anything. We just people sitting at home with our laptops doing some research. If we can do it, the police can do it too. And plus, the police has the power to summon GoDaddy and ask for the register details. The domain was bought, so GoDaddy would have the register details. Payments would have been made to buy the domain. So it wouldn't be too difficult to find out who bought the domain and what IP address was it registered under, and get to the bottom of who created the website, the corresponding website of Sulli Deals. So I think it is just a matter of intent. And Delhi police, there was a lack of willingness to actually catch the people who did it, which is why it hasn't happened yet. It should have. It isn't very difficult.
Nidhi, I would like you to help us understand, based on your earlier story done in the case of Sushant Singh Rajput, when there were a lot of these, social media pages that had come up, whose main target was Riya Chakrabarti, who would blame her in one of the most, vile manner for the sudden demise of the actor. And even in this particular case, while we are wondering what could be the reason or motivation behind, an engineer and a co-accused who also happens to be a woman, to take out photos of women, hundreds of them, and put them out on auction on another platform. What do you think could be, what is the mindset here, which can explain and which can help us understand why this is being repeated again and again?
So I think a couple of things. The main link between, say, the Riya Chakrabarti incident, which is actually a case of conspiracy gone viral, and this incident, which is not exactly a conspiracy, but something that's vile and tragic and but gone viral as well, is the case of the people involved in it. And I think that as much as we're concerned about the women, it's equally important for us to be concerned about the people behind such incidents, and two kinds of concern. I mean, with the women involved in the Bully Bai incident, it's important for us to be in solidarity, to stand with them and be allies in this, in what's happened. But I think in terms of who did it, generally what I've observed is three large emotions. Either there's a group of people who absolutely love what they've done and love them, or people hate them, or we're afraid of them. And all three emotions to me are fairly paralyzing to a point where we're not then interested in them as people. And I think that we need to sort of like take out these paralyzing emotions and really be concerned for them. And which is what we tried to do with in the case of the Riya Chakrabarti conspiracy, where what we did was very simple. We just identified three men who were using this particular incident to create content that was fairly viral. And they were coming at it from three different places. One was a young engineering student based out of Ghaziabad who was just doing this. He'd never met Sushant Singh Rajput. He'd never watched a film of his. So there didn't, at the face of it, there didn't seem to be any real connection between them. But then he was spending 5 to 6 hours of his day producing content that was completely vile, and he was also giving a large part of his life to this, which is what is the case with most of these people, right? Like to dedicate your life to something for these many hours of the day, to dedicate your mind space means it's something that clearly moves you. And why it moves you is always, for me, an interesting question. So for this young boy in Ghaziabad who is giving up his time to have this Facebook group, which had about 92,000, 93,000 followers, and people consistently, in an organized manner, posting content against Riya Chakrabarti. And for him, ultimately, after like 2 hours of discussion, it came down to something really, really simple, which he said was, for the first time in his life, he had attention from women. And he said there were about 3 women across the world who were sort of speaking to him at night because they were so upset with Sushant Singh Rajput's death, that he would get female attention for the first time in his life. And that is very important for a guy his age. And he had, of course, then decided to continue with this. And apart from that, there were a lot of things. Like he digressed and got into a discussion with me about CAA and RC and how Muslims are so problematic. So there was also an underlying hate against Muslims. But for him, he couldn't get over the fact that he had women giving him attention for the first time. Now, another person we spoke to, Sahil Chaudhary, was this person who's a YouTuber. And if you go through his YouTube, he goes from imitating actors. He has put out content imitating actors. He's put out cookery shows, and then he's put out things against Riya Chakrabarti, right? To a point where he's actually very dedicatedly recreated that scene and what she might have done and what he might have done and how he died, and even recreated the suicide. And when I spoke to him, I actually, when I started to speak to him, I found myself very angry. Like I was struggling to contain my own anger towards him. But over a course of 2 hours, when we did speak, he just told me that, he'd been a struggling actor. He'd gone to Bollywood. He'd always gotten a side role as a guy. And he'd always, been asked by, he said there were instances of men trying to ask him for sexual favors, female directors trying to ask him for sexual favors. And he was frustrated. And he said, for someone like him, who didn't come from a film background and was from a small town, there was no way to make it in Bollywood. And women, and he'd also been cheated in a couple of his relationships before, and he'd already harbored anger against a lot of women. So for him, and he said this is the most viral content that he's made. Like for the first time in his life, he was having an audience, which is something he'd been wanting for a very long time. So I just feel like a lot of us find a lot of closure in the fact that arrests have been made or that the police is after them. But there's this entire story is also a story of us, like things that we have been willing to get addicted to, things that we're willing to, wake up and scroll through every day, and things that we're also consistently okay to be angry about. I mean, there's a problem at a very societal level that needs to be addressed that doesn't get addressed with just an arrest. I mean, even today, Shweta Singh, the woman who's been arrested, she's 18. I just read an article that she's lost both her parents to COVID. I mean, and she's of course the main perpetrator, probably, if she's the one who created this or started this. But this wouldn't have happened if there weren't like 100 others supporting. So does the judicial system really address that, all these 100 people? How many people will we keep going after to put in jail if we don't address it as a societal issue?
Right. So basically, it's a culture that has, evolved over a period of time, which legitimizes this hate mongering, which is at play here, and which perhaps can help us in connecting the dots every time such an incident comes to light. And this is, our video version of the podcast. We shall continue with the discussion, for which you can log on to newslaundry.com and hear the complete podcast there.
The subscription model is something that keeps News Laundry afloat, but we need hundreds of thousands of people to completely transform the news ecosystem. So you pay for news, so it serves you. So click on the link with this video, subscribe to News Laundry and pay to keep news free, और गर्व से कहो, मेरे खर्च पर आजाद है खबरें.